Hi, this is Alex Gonzalez from In Your Phase. This is a 40K based episode where we dive into the secondaries in 40K. Really, if they're 45 points, then they definitely shouldn't be called secondaries, but we dive into some of the details of some of the primary ones and codex based objectives that you can earn in order to essentially earn half of your points. Sit back, enjoy, and here's the show.
Coast are in the 20s and the whole center is in the single digits, and so it looks like a microwave burrito where it's warm on the outside and freezing cold in the middle.
But if it's 20s on the side, that's not much of a
but it's still
burrito.
Like in the green compared to 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude,
I mean, it was wild. Like 70 degrees today at my house. It was beautiful, sunny. I was outside. The birds were singing and chirping.
Matt landed in Los Angeles at LAX. He's like, it's 67 degrees and sunny. I'm like, 67 in LA at 3 o'clock? Dude, it's fucking cold down there.
Yeah, get a jacket.
Right? 67 in Los Angeles. That's fucking cold.
Wow. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine
at all. I have a coworker who lives in New Mexico, and they were like, I was like, oh, we were talking about our weekend. I talked to, we almost got a show there. I was talking about,
but not quite.
Almost. Well, the good thing was your entire torso was visible and clear, but your face was censored out because of your filter. So it was
really?
Ooh, this is some scandalous stuff. Like, I guess we are going to start that OnlyFans. All right. Didn't know, but thanks.
I'll have to play with that capability. It might come into handy.
It might come into a lot of handy.
Lots of
that
hands.
Didn't make any sense.
Lots of hands.
Got a coworker. We were talking about the fact that we got snow over the weekend. On my end of my neighborhood, we actually got like 10 inches of snow. Shit was wild. But things are starting to melt right now. It's been like in the 40s and rainy, so everything's just been slush now. But we were talking about stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, it was super cold. It was snowing. It was raining. How about you? And they live in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and they were like, it was 8 degrees yesterday. And I'm like, fuck. Like, okay. Oh, right? Shit.
You almost feel bad mentioning anything at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to shut the fuck up because, you live in Rio Rancho and you do not have heating. So at least not the same type of heating that's like, yes, this is meant for winter. This is meant for snow. Everything is insulated specifically for this. No, a lot of those places are not specifically made for that unless they're, cradling the Rockies or something like that. But anyways, that's it was not fun. But besides the fact that we live in a microwave burrito, microwave like 20 seconds, 40 seconds, I don't know how much, but of course we want to talk about secondaries today. Secondaries for Warhammer 40,000 specifically. We of course had the lovely chapter approved 2020 book, as well as rules for the most of the codexes. I believe we should have access to, but of course secondaries are a big thing. And right now, because there hasn't been a whole bunch of events, the stat show is on a brief hiatus, I would say. We haven't really been able to have the regular show, but I got to say, one of my favorite parts of the stat show that John, pardon me, John, no, not John, Jeremy and Garrett would put on would be their topic on secondaries and their description of percentages, things like that. So we'll have a real fun time tonight. But when it comes to phases, like I mentioned just a moment ago, it was really snowy. Now it's really slushy here. I have absolutely no hobby work that I've been doing, but it's been on the back of my mind, kind of grinding slowly and steadily, that I should probably get my shit together. I'm planning out a few TTS games for 40K, probably a couple for AOS in the next week or so. Garrett and I have to fucking play at some point for our league, so we're going to do that. Hopefully we can stream it. Who knows? We'll get there when we get there. I just am doing more house shit, basically. I'm domestic now, so we're having fun, we're hanging out, getting a lot of kind of personal goals together, getting the office squared away and the home gym squared away, and that's it. That's it for me. John, what about you? What's been going on in California?
Well, first off, I just have to ask Alex Gonzalez, my friend, when was the last time you ate a microwave burrito?
I was actually just talking about this with Jamie the other day. When I used to be far larger than I am now, and despite the challenges of the pandemic, I was thinking back about I had a high school in the weekend. I had in quick succession one night. I had a college nightmare, and that sucked because I'm just going to forever have those. And then I had a high school nightmare, and in high school, I realized that I would have every single day for like all of junior year, 950 calorie microwave burrito. It was like the spicy bean and cheese one, a whole ass bottle of Code Blue Mountain Dew, and then like fries or Frito chips. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was like 1,800 calories, if not more. Tight, 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 tight.
Maximum nutrition there.
Maximum nutrition, absolute nutrient density. But yeah, I used to eat a lot of microwave burritos, but I don't have a microwave.
Oh, you don't even have a microwave. Awesome.
No.
So it's obviously been a long time. It's funny you mentioned having nightmares. I myself only have nightmares. All my dreams have actually only been nightmares since I was a small child, like starting around 8 or 9 years old. When I dream, I have horrible nightmares every single night. And this is part of what attracts me to the Black Library is the grim, dark, and really dark writings kind of offset some of that. For what it's worth, they started for me after going to the famed Frontier Village, which was a local amusement park, and they had a haunted mine ride. And my uncles actually really scared the hell out of me in that ride. And soon after that, I went to Santa Cruz that also had a scary type mine ride and was further traumatized by being terrorized by the babysitters that took me there on that. So I was just horribly frightened of haunted houses and have since always had nightmares. And so my nightmares are usually me trapped in some kind of a haunted house, factory, train stations, that kind of stuff. And I'm often having to battle like oppressive evil spirits and things like that. It's there. So it's actually what got me into lucid dreaming as a teenager, which is of course where you learn to become conscious during your dreams and then take control of those dreams. So lucid dreaming has been my greatest defense in my life against the nightmares that have plagued. So, hey, that was definitely a little aside that you probably weren't expecting. But what has actually been in my phase, besides horrible nightmares that I suffer from every night, I have been working on this custom Satan model. Basically, I think I showed it off a little bit last week. And if you guys watched the hobby live stream earlier in the week, I've continued building on this thing. In fact, I went ahead and have magnetized all the bits to help me with the painting, et cetera, et cetera. And so really looking forward to finishing up this particular model because it's going to allow me to move on to this beautiful witch model that I've been wanting to start on, which are both models that are kind of designed to help me get back into painting. It's actually been about 15 months since I used my airbrush, and I want to start doing that. And what I want is to get warmed up because I just received these in the mail. Oh, I should take them out of the bag for our viewers that are watching. And you say, John, what are those? Why that almost looks like Sanguinius. Well, what did I do?
You want to take that image and move it just a little closer to the center? Your filter blurred it out.
You know what? I know how to deal with this. Watch this. I can come down and we can unfilter for a minute. And so I bought from the Toughest Girls in the Galaxy collection. I've bought the 4 Sisters of Eternal Mercy angels. And so we've got this one. We've got this one, which was actually what pulled me in. Is that just cool? It's like an angel basically lifting a victim or something up, probably like a saint or what have you. And then we have this one, Manarion, which is a cool, totally not Sanguinor with the axe and big blood droplets on his armor. And then, of course, my totally not sanguineous angel as well. Now, of course, I'm super not into blood angels. In fact, as you guys know, I'm somewhat anti-blood angels. But man, I thought these angel sculpts were really, really cool. And it actually gives me a chance to, I'm working on 3 different types of models right now. So these are 3D prints that you can buy if you're a member of their Patreon. You get access to these and you can print them yourself. But they actually take and 3D print the models, make molds out of those, and then cast them so that that's what they're selling. So these are molded resin of 3D prints, as opposed to my custom Satan, which is actually just a resin print on its own, versus this witch, which is a classic sculpture that has then been molded and cast. So all 3 are, quote, high-end resin type models, but they actually represent the 3 types of modern resin models that you can get. So anyway, so that's super what's been in my phase during my waking hours only. Beyond that, to offset and help me sleep a little bit better, I am currently enjoying a little bit of this fine Japanese whiskey. Delicious as always. So that has been what has been in my phase this week. Just a whole bunch of hobbying and kind of playing with stuff. Garrett, my friend, what has been in your phase this week?
Nothing nearly as exciting. I'm still not super I haven't been inspired by any hobby projects recently. But what I have actually done this weekend, John, is I have made myself a hot sauce.
Oh, what's this?
Yeah, so but for Christmas, my father-in-law got me a hot sauce DIY kit. Turns out all it is dried peppers, vinegar, and some seasonings. That's literally all hot sauce is.
Yes.
So I made myself some hot sauce, and I'm excited to start playing around with different peppers, different seasonings, different vinegars or whatever. Like my wife wanted to try out a peach vinegar instead of an apple cider vinegar. And so that's what I've been working on, and I am very intrigued to see what kind of peppers you can drum up that I can make some hot sauces out of, and see what kind of flavors profiles I can create out of that. That sounds like a fun project for this summer, maybe.
Ooh, that's pretty exciting. Well, you're definitely still on my good boy pepper list. And one of the things that I actually did myself this last week was I set up some heating pads in my garage, and I've got some little domed seed starters that I put on the heating pads. And I've started a bunch of different pepper seeds because it actually takes 4 to 6 weeks for peppers to start. So got those going. So we're already in good shape to get your hot sauce on this summer.
Nice. Yeah. So that's basically all I've got this weekend. Nothing else exciting. So Jeremy, what about you?
I've been crazy busy with work recently. I'm also been looking forward to finish it. I still have these 2 chariots I have to assemble for my Knights of the Empty Throne. I'm looking forward to doing our Battletome review this Saturday. We have 2 books review, I believe. So we should look forward to that for the audience here. I played a game. I played 3 games of AOS this weekend for Garrett TTS event. I've lost the first one, won the last 2, and I played Fire Slayers, which has been like almost like a year plus since I played Fire Slayers. So it was cool to get to experience them again, see how they adjusted to the meta. Thankfully, the only meta list I ended up playing against really was my first opponent who played KO. The next 2 were like Flesh Eater Court and then Corn Bloodbound. So it was just it was basically like playing 2019 2/3 of the time, and then 1/3 of the time was playing 2020. But it was the event went good. I fucking hate Star Strike. Stop making me play Star Strike. I think maybe a year ago when we went over the episodes review, like our like kind of went like record over that year in the 2019 ITC circuit. think I said I had like 95% winning rate, and then every mission I've ever lost during that tournament was literally Star Strike missions with Fire Slayers. They're like fucking impossible to win, or that are impossible. They're just very hard to win if the objectives end up landing in a very awkward situation for you. So thank you, Garrett, for that.
No.
Especially against KO, that was super great. Without giving too much detail of the game, I'll tell you I went. We played 2 turns. Well, technically we played 4, but really only 2 turns that mattered. I never got to shoot. I never got to charge. I got to move through a warp lightning vortex for 4 turns, while he just sat on the 2 objectives that mattered. And that was the game. For 3 consecutive, he won every initiative except for the last one, which had no impact on the game whatsoever. So I was just like, great.
I'm curious if warp lightning vortex is such a major problem for fire slayers. Have you thought about adding like a rune smith or rune master, whatever they're called, because they can dispel an endless spell with +2 to dispel.
Yeah, so it was nullifying in that mission. I could dispel it. I just never rolled the dice above it.
That's what I like about the rune smith.
But the warp lightning vortex actually didn't really matter outside of the first turn, because I had countered position myself to basically split my army in 2 and force the warp lightning vortex to be completely like maximum range. Couldn't really clip that many units. You only clip like 2 units, but what ended up happening is the warp lightning vortex split my army in half, and all of the objectives landed on the other end of the warp lightning vortex. So like there wasn't like any way for like half my army just had to like hoof it around the warp lightning vortex. Couldn't run straight at the objectives. There's nothing you can counter with that. If all the objectives end up on one side and the warp lightning vortex cuts your army in half, you just can't do anything about it. Like that's just like that's it. And then you're playing against KO, which just teleports and just positions on the objective. It's like cool. I'll be out of your charge range for the rest of the game. And that's how the game. It was very one-sided, but you know it plays to the strength of KO, and it shows like Fire Slayers, you know, don't do well in Star Strike missions. They're just absolutely terrible for the mission.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm looking forward to. Hopefully in 3rd edition they bring about maybe some missions that don't have those random elements that can just cause a game to go sideways because you got screwed.
I mean, I do like it. It's a balancing element of the game. I like the fact that mission exists makes it hard for Fire Slayers. But it's not like Fire Slayers can't win that game. It's just that matchup plus where the random element just made it impossible for me to win, right? Because random elements went against me, and the matchup was just like, by the way, you can't run.
No,
we're army split.
Now, game mechanics that make you lose, irregardless of skill, or allow less skilled players to randomly win over skilled players, are not balancing mechanics.
Hold on.
That's not what AOS has ever striven to be for, right? It's about like they've always striven mission design to be punishing for certain armies, like makeups. There's by essence, none of the AOS missions are designed to be fair. It's the bottom line. They're not designed to be fair. They're designed to be unfair.
Well, I mean, and that's a basic game design philosophy from GW. Is complete imbalance equals balance.
Well, okay, but then there's one mission that's incredibly boring and is the most balanced, and that's Knife to the Heart. Because that mission exist, right?
Because that works well for all armies equally.
Totally.
I mean, you could, if you're a slow army, you could hang out on your objective and survive the entire game and get a tie.
Yeah.
Or work towards the hidden agenda and then win due to the achieving hidden agenda, which is the secondary for Age of Sigmar.
I still hate TTS though. Because I haven't played TTS in a while for AOS, and I still hate TTS. It was the bottom line of the event. There's something about TTS that like just does not enthuse me still to this day. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I miss playing against real people, and I miss going to events, and that's the bottom line of it.
I will say it doesn't help that you get to play with somebody like every 2 weeks or every week in person, so you get to see what TTS isn't, and for someone like me who never plays
in TTS's defense, I do enjoy that more than playing Alex every Sunday.
Okay.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, TTS is nice because it does allow us to stay in touch with these games. I'm not a big fan of it because honestly, at the point I'm playing a video game, there's better video games, and I can chat with my friends while I'm playing a video game too. So that's kind of my issue with it. Is yes, I appreciate that TTS is what it is, but I myself am not going to get super into it. On the other hand, it's nice that we're at least, games, in-person games are on the horizon now. I feel that they're going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree. I'm still projecting for July at least, for some sort of thing, but who knows? We'll see. Okay, cool. How about you, Garrett? What's in your phase? You already said it.
Yeah, I have hot sauce.
Yeah. Fuck me. Yeah. Okay. How's the hot sauce? Is it spicy? How spicy is it?
Yeah, it's fairly spicy. I mean, I think I add a little too much vinegar, so it's a little vinegary. It's one of those.
But you added. Oh, it's a vinegar-based hot sauce.
Like
Most are.
Most are.
That's why hot sauce lasts forever.
Yeah. So I'm excited to try new hot sauces, like experiment using hot sauces. Like it's not too spicy. It's a little spicy.
Without vinegar, it's either salsa or hot pepper oil.
I do like hot pepper oil. A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. That and paste.
Yeah, I used 5 habaneros and 1 enchero.
Okay.
So
cool. Wow.
I made some super wicked hot chili oil when I did my interview with Andrew Standiford, where I took 5 of the hottest peppers I could find, including a couple over 1 million Scovilles, and then I sautéed it up in some peanut oil and added some capsaicin extract.
So you wanted him to suffer.
It was an apex experience, and you know what?
Is that what we're calling it now? An apex experience.
That's what that was. And
he ate it.
He was down.
Jeremy when he brings some like kick your shit in list at a tournament. No, it's that kind of experience.
It's an apex experience. What the hell are you playing against me? Don't worry, bro. It's an apex
Why did
experience.
table me in 25 minutes, dude? It's an apex experience, my brother.
Yes, we would have been enjoying those at the Las Vegas Open. So I have my Las Vegas Nopin. Where is that? Oh, here. Yeah. Nopin shirt on. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do this. It's harder than you think.
No, for sure.
Gotta work on that for your OnlyFans account.
There you go. So of course, you guys, we want to look over secondaries for 40K. I have shared with my colleagues here some access and resource to some of the lesser known codexes for the chapter approved secondaries. And of course, for the secondaries in 40K, they are, if you haven't been playing 40K and you've been doing everything responsibly, but you have also not been doing TTS and haven't really gotten into 9th edition, if that's the case, of course, you're going to be caught by surprise building a list, because like Garrett and Jeremy have mentioned in the stat show, secondaries, you should be building a list for secondaries. That's kind of the full, that's a good way to start this off, is that is kind of the way that you need to build lists now for 9th edition, specifically because you can earn up to 45 points out of 100 or out of, I guess, 90, besides for being fully painted. 45 of your points can be earned just from the primary, but the other half, it's got to come from somewhere, and it's going to be coming from your secondaries. So it is just as important. And because the primaries are so easy to achieve, they are existing on on 1, 2, or 3 plus objectives. You have to focus on the things that are going to be a little bit more complex. And, of course, with secondaries, there are some rules and regulations. You just can't, you can't double up, of course. That's, I guess, for the beginners here. And there are certain categories that both the codex ones and the ones from the GT packet adhere to. And you're, of course, only allowed 1 objective to be chosen from each category. Those categories would be battlefield supremacy, no mercy, no spite, purge the enemy, shadow operations, and Warpcraft. So let's start off in a bit of an order here to take a look and have a discussion, starting with these GT pack ones, probably with the most popular one, or at least the most popular one, at least when 9th edition first dropped, and that was a Battlefield Supremacy, Engage in All Fronts. Looking at that one is real simple. You score 2 points if you have a unit wholly within 3 table quarters. You earn 3 points at the end of your turn if you have 1 unit wholly within 1 unit each within all 4 table quarters of the game. I think that one's pretty cut and dry. It's good to know why it's effective and why it's so popular. I know that some of my colleagues would can review some of the pitfalls of that, but to me it just seems like a good capstone secondary. I personally don't like using it at all, but John, what are your thoughts on Engage in All Front?
So let me back up a little bit. Okay. First off, I want to talk about primary versus secondary. Right off the bat, I don't even like the words primary and secondary objective, because it implies that one is more important than the other. Whereas, as you were just saying a minute ago, Alex, they are equal weight, right? Each is worth about 45 points, potentially,
Exactly.
unless you choose certain secondaries where you actually are not capable of getting 45 points, depending on your matchups or what have you. And then, of course, there's the 10 points. So, I mean, I almost think of them as like basic objectives, which are your, holding the objectives that are on the field, as opposed to, I don't know, mission objectives. I was trying to think of a term like when a military force is out there and they're trying to achieve various objectives. There's the main things that they need to accomplish, capture the fort, blah, blah, blah. But there's also like objectives of opportunity or something. So anyway, so I'm not sure what the right term is, but the primary and secondary somehow takes away from the importance. And for me, like, this is the entire game. I am personally super duper challenged to pick secondaries. I feel that the secondary should be designed into the army. I know that this was a thing that I did in 7th and edition and 6th edition, was designing lists around the missions and what we were going to see at tournaments. There was less variety back then. And so now it's like, well, what are the ones that are going to work well for my army? So, Engage on All Fronts is a pretty good one, I think, if you have a highly mobile army, if you have ways to get around the board. It does have that sort of exclusion zone in the center, so you can't just block your entire army and sit on the center of the board and hold them all. So it's nice. So myself, I tend to play fast attack type armies, Raven Wing. I even play drop pod heavy armies on occasion. Even when I was playing Tau recently, I went with a Barracuda heavy army and lots of drones with their big mobility. And so for me, I almost always take Engage on All Fronts. It's just one of those ones. However, Engage on All Fronts is one of those ones that can be a little bit of a trap. First off, you got to work a little bit to get the 3 points every turn. 2 points, pretty easy to achieve, but 3 points, not so easy to achieve. And you got to remember that 9th edition is a high attrition edition. I rarely have more than 2 or 3 units on the table by the time I get to the 4th turn of my game. So you have, my game, like every game of 9th edition I've played, when it's gone to 5 turns, if somebody hasn't been tabled before 5 turns, I don't think I've ever had more than 3 units left when I get to turn 5. And because of this high attrition rate, now remember, I tend to play elite armies too, but with that high attrition rate, are you going to have enough units at the end of the game to continue scoring maximum points? So Engage on All Fronts, it's an easy pick. You're going to take it, but is it really one that you can actually maximize the score on? So that's my general thoughts on it.
Yes. Oh no, Garrett had posted something.
I realized that. I thought you were mocking me there,
No,
Sir Alex. You were just laughing in my face. I was presenting a deep conceptual tactical idea that could be applied by our listeners, and you simply laughed and mocked me right to my face.
No.
Or okay, maybe we have a private chat on the side of making jokes.
I do want to comment a little bit on John's topics on engaged all friends. I do think it's one of those ones that yeah, it's a trap for newer players, because I think it's one of those ones that's easy to achieve because it's you have control over it. Like, as we'll go through with other secondaries, this is one of those ones that scores at the end of your turn. So you don't, your opponent can't react to you trying to, like, they can't prevent you from getting it. If you get to where you want to be, you got there, done. The only way that they can try to prevent it is by zoning out an entire quarter or something like that. Real quick, I do want to mention that another time that you may actually want to take this is when deployment zones are on a corner deployment, because getting in 3 corners is really easy when you're on a corner. But I think the other thing that John hit on is that he plays a lot of elite armies. MSU style fast armies do tend to do really well with engaged all friends. Like Sisters can do fairly well because they have a lot of small units that can kind of mobily get everywhere. And then Slanesh does very well because they're very fast and they have a lot of units that can just get everywhere really quickly. So it's not always a trap. It's just, it's not good for elite armies. Like, I've played against Custodes and they've taken it and it's like, that was a mistake. You're not in every corner. You never will be. That sucks. So I think you definitely need to have lots of units so that when you get to the end turns, you still have units left that can just have one model in a corner or something like that, if you want to take this one.
Okay.
That's all.
Jeremy, what about you?
I will say that rarely my games end up being tabling in turn 5, John.
Yeah.
I don't think if you play, so 2 things are either happening. There's, and I'm making a guess here, not enough terrain, or not enough not enough obscuring terrain, or not enough players using obscuring terrain to their advantage. That's what it comes down to. And then also probably like to be honest, I'm pretty sure John plays a lot of MSU lit type armies, but maybe that's not the case anymore. Because I feel like the game right now is, yes, as John described, is pretty destructive. So it like rewards multiple threats more than like very big threats, like very drastically. It's, you don't really have like Death Stars, right? We haven't seen a Death Star in like 9th edition yet. I mean, I haven't seen one that's any good. So like there isn't like this propensity for like, if the less units you have in the army, the less likely you're going to be like,
Goring.
It's because it's a top strength, I guess, or like half strength or a quarter strength. By the end of the game, you're more likely to get tabled.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so it comes down to, I think, obscuring and just MSU. But in terms of secondaries, for me, I was going to say, as a general statement, I really like the approach they're doing and the progressive scoring. But, and we've talked about this in the stat show before, is just, there are some secondaries that just need to be redone like 110% to be actually like, you want every secondary to have a place, and like right now there's some of them they just don't have a place in the game, so need to get maybe some address of that. Anyway, but that's all I had to say, Alex.
Okay.
I don't think I've tabled you at once. Have I
No,
tabled
most
you
of our
ever?
games, at my worst loss, even at my worst loss, I haven't been tabled. It's just like, oh, there's no way I can win anymore. The game is over.
Yeah, I think the only time I've been tabled is, I think you tabled my Harlequins once, or somebody tabled my Harlequins.
No, Custodes.
Yeah, what? Actually,
Custodes,
as I think about it, I think about it is I actually haven't been tabled as much as I would actually describe it as untenable games by turn 3. Now that I'm thinking through, it's like you get to turn 3 and you're like, okay, this game, it's not going to happen,
Yeah.
So I've never actually played to the actual tabling as much as it's like, okay, this probably either leads to a tabling or at least there's no winnable game here.
Well, it's those low model number armies where they can actually get tabled. Like, I'm thinking right now of every game I've like done a tabling in 9th edition, and it's literally always been, it's only happened twice so far in 9th edition, but it's been Custodes both times. Why? because they have like half the number of models on the table. So in one turn, you can like wrap things up very quickly, you know?
You losing a unit for that army is fundamentally more important than losing, 5 whatever, right? 5 Marines, 5 intercessors, or the equivalent of that.
Yeah.
But to answer John's question, actually that problem, or not question, but like statement, or piggyback on that a little bit more. That statement regarding like, yeah, there's untenable games by turn 3. It's usually, at least my experience, is because of you pick the wrong secondary, where somehow like that secondary becomes like unscorable during the
Yes.
period of the game. And there's some secondaries that do definitely do that, like grind them down. All the ones which depend on you killing a certain amount of things, like either more than your opponent or a set amount of number of models, they tend to be like impossible to score any time in which your opponent either gets a bit ahead in terms of like killing things on
Yeah.
your end that remove the elements in which they can kill things with, you can kill things with, or it's just like they just play super conservatively and you're like not ever in a position to get like, and that game becomes like, yeah, like if you truly in this edition, especially at, I would say like top play, if you pick the wrong secondary, and it's not because of sheer value of the second, it's just literally how the game progressed in the first 2 turns, like you're going to lose that game more than not, and it becomes like the lead just becomes too hard to catch
It's
effectively.
also demoralizing as hell to not see you score no points for multiple turns in a row.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't tell you how many times, like even against like my MSU armies, like in the beginning, Alex used to take like grind them down or whatever the one is to kill more than your opponent, and like still didn't get it by the end of the like first 2 turns, and he's just like, well, there goes that. Like
It's
that's
good on
6
certain
points.
matchups. It is good on certain matchups.
Well, it needs to be
Not against
instead
Steve.
of it needs to be about it's design philosophy, right? You want to reward things for killing lots of things, right? But the idea is that like every turn you don't achieve that, you just permanently lose those 3 points. They should have made it so it's more like progressive based on like, hey, like if you've killed X more units than your opponent by the end of the game, this is how many points you're gonna get. Kind of like they did the other one, which is the one with kill 10 models. It should have been just like if you kill more than X units, than your opponent by the end of the game, you get X many points. Right?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that might almost be a different secondary at that point.
Yeah.
But in the spirit of things, it's just like if you're trying to design that secondary to be kind of a counter to like MSU spam style armies, it's unfortunately like, if your MSU player is like incredibly conservative of his resources first 2 turn, you're just gonna not get like, well, Jeremy, there needs to be a counterplay. I'm like, well, does it really? Because like, unfortunately, that counterplay just basically makes that player like almost guaranteed to lose the game unless you picked yourself a secondary that you can count, or you picked a secondary that you can counterplay equally. So it's just, I don't know, like, right? There's just fundamentally there's some secondaries for me which are just not as accessible as they sound like when you read them the first time, right? It's just the way the game can develop
Yeah.
the secondaries most people take, right? The ones people constantly take are the ones which are like, it doesn't matter how the game goes for secondaries. Like this is just like things I need to do and execute without actually having any interaction with my opponent.
Yep.
And that's usually what the secondaries people take. It's things that are basically execution, or they're just taken for granted. They're going to happen anyway. Like,
Oh, right, and that's
clear.
Those are the ones I think that you want to design your army around too. Now, what you're talking about is I've designed certain secondaries that my army is always or almost always going to be successful at, and so I put these elements in. I've put a big static block of something that I can raise the flags with. I've established a late game outflanker or deep striker so that I can whatever the other one is, not raise the banners, but the other one where you have to do that.
Teleport homer.
I think it might be important.
Deploy scramblers.
Deploy scramblers and teleport homers. Yep.
Well, I mean that is definitely one of the secondaries that we have here. Do you think that it's more advantageous to talk about the most effective ones for some of the more popular armies, or are we going to be taking a peek at everything here?
I don't know if
Well,
we should take a peek at everything. I personally would be super interested to hear, in particular, what Garrett and Jeremy, because they've done the stat shows on these things, have to say about like what are those. Like every single army out there should always take this secondary, or
Wouldn't that be
if you
army
have this
dependent?
type of
Because
army,
they're
what should you take? So I'm interested to hear some of that.
Wouldn't that be important and pertinent on the army itself too? Because there are, of course, chapter approved rules and those chapter approved chapter approved objectives. I'm not going to use the word secondaries anymore. Chapter approved objectives for each codex that's out in ninth edition.
Yeah. So one of the, I don't know like how we can tackle this, but like organically here. But I'm going to start with like the piece I feel is important to talk about. We can talk about like in the spirit of what we were just talking about, but let's ignore the GT packet secondaries for a second here, and talk about like the secondaries from the chapter proof. And this is a problem. We haven't really talked about the stat show recently. We haven't had a stat show recently because there's just been really almost no events. But there's clearly good secondary design for each codex for the game, and there's bad secondary design situation for these armies for the game. The Necron ones,
and be clear, you're saying for the game, not for that specific player.
Yes, exactly. For like all the Necron secondaries, incredibly well designed and good for the game. Like they're not specifically targeting a specific style of Necron. They're designed to do like to basically make the Necron player do certain things and with some real like resource cost element to it. Like most of like two of them are action driven, or not really action driven, but like related. One is action plus like, and the other one's just like taking certain objectives. But those objectives are basically like one of them is like your opponent picks the objective, and the other one is you pick the objective, but you have to take an action. So there's like resource elementization that happens about decisions you have to make throughout the game to score these. Right?
Yeah.
So it's fundamentally like those are good for the game when it comes out of books, right? The bad ones are what we're getting out of all the Space Marine books. The Space Marine books are all around effectively just killing things. Like there's actually a good one in the generic Space Marine book, but most of the other ones from all the supplements, and I'm not going to go into detail, but I will go over the one we talked about, John and I, on the last Codex review. The Dark Angel one, the Raven Wing one, is just literally like a bad one for the game. It rewards no decisions. It rewards no like real fundamentally like list design. It's like if you play Raven Wing, you take that secondary. There is no question about it. It's just like that's it.
Yeah. And I want to jump in real quick. First off, for the record, I finally, though I didn't have it available when Jeremy and I did the show, the Dark Angels Codex. Oops, that's not it. Sorry, that was work. Also answering work problems while I'm doing the show. Anyways, Jeremy, right? It's this time of night. Jeremy had given me the code from his codex. It finally showed up in my app a week later. GW has not even shipped my pre-purchased copy of the Dark Angels Codex. And in preparation for this show, I thought I would go ahead and, since I now have the codex in the app. Oh, that's nice. Anyways, what I found out is the codex in the app does not have the Dark Angel secondaries.
That's hilarious. Wow. Okay.
So wasn't able to reference those.
I'll say I myself am not a big fan of the Dark Angel secondary. I understand what Jeremy's trying to communicate, the idea that there are some secondaries that are bad for the game because it takes no necessary action to really consider.
Like that one. I used that Dark Angel's Raven Wing one in my last game with my Raven Wing, and every turn when I killed something, my opponent's like, you just get points for killing stuff.
That's right.
Oh yeah, my whole army is Raven Wing. So yeah.
So for our listeners that are specifically, the secondary is essentially I don't have the codex with me, so I don't have the name of it, but it's essentially if you have a Raven Wing unit that killed an enemy unit, you get 2 points for each unit that a Raven Wing unit killed. So if you have an entire army of Raven Wing units, you get 2 points every time you kill a unit.
Oh, you can't see it. Oh, whatever.
It's
What?
funny because this was the very reason why I was very happy with the new mission design, because in ITC missions you got a point for killing and a point for killing more, and so there's this huge emphasis on killing, and so it detracted me away from the game. I was like, this doesn't feel like my grand strategy game where I can outmaneuver my opponent and win when all they have to do is table me and get max points. And this feels like it's harking back to that. It was like, did you kill shit? You get points. And I'm like, why are we rewarding people for killing stuff? There's already, like, killing things already helps you because it removes their assets from the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
So why are
I'm
we
with
also
Garrett on this one.
Yeah.
I also favor not rewarding killing. Like, I don't like
Well,
a Slay the General, First Strike, whether we're talking Age of Sigmar or 40K. I like a tactical maneuver game of moving and holding objectives. If we can avoid anything that's rewards killing, because as you said, killing happens enough. That's almost secondary to what's going on. Like, it's going to happen.
For Sherry.
So I think that certain restrictions are going to be important. Now, a restriction for an army build that people want to play, like Raven Guard and killing things, is not a great idea. I don't really agree with that. I think that certain instances, when it comes to very particular situational things regarding killing, I think that is helpful and healthy for the game. So, for example, there are 4 a lot of codexes either have 3 or 4 chapter approved objectives. Necron Codex has 4 of them. One of them that's always brushed under the rug, unless you bring Silent King, which, if you guys have watched our live stream, Jeremy and I, neither of us own the Silent King, and I really don't fully have intention of getting one anytime soon. But a lot of people, the meta list, I say meta with big quotes because it's a bad list and you should feel bad for playing it. If you're a Necron player, just don't, and I disagree with you.
So Alex has played enough Catacross that he
John?
doesn't need the Silent King.
Yeah. There's a secondary that's essentially, if you have a royal keyword killing a unit, then you get I think it's like 3 points for every royal keyword unit that killed an enemy unit. Now, Deathwing getting 2 kill points every time you kill something. Of course, it's less points for each unit, but that's the entire army. That's 8 to 15 units that can all potentially make those kills for secondaries. In the Necron one for royal keyword, that's 1 to maybe 3. And if you bring 3, you're probably not going to have a great list. So, and if you want to make it actually effective and likely, then you have to bring the Silent King, which is probably not going to survive 2 turns. So it's not the greatest secondary to use, because it's so restrictive. But it's one that does exist, that is about killing things, but it's put into a box to the point where it's narrow. It just it's not as broken, I guess you would say.
You would almost have to focus your entire tactical position to scoring that objective to actually make it effective. Like, that's what you would be about, is chasing that.
See, I have another issue though with some of the other codex based secondaries, and that actually goes with another one that Space Marines can use. And unfortunately, right now, everything that we've been able to do in the latest live stream that Jeremy and I played, he played a Raven Wing list where we just there's nothing that says you can't or you can, but there's the implications that say that you can use both a Codex Space Marine secondary or chapter approved objective and a success a chapter specific chapter approved secondary at the same time. So essentially, he had both the secondary from Dark Angels, which allowed every Raven Wing unit to that kills a unit to earn 2 points towards the secondary, and he also had the overall Space Marine one, because it's also not only a Raven Wing army but an Adeptus Astartes army.
Wait.
He was able to utilize not no mercy, no respite. He was able to utilize Oath of Moment, which is another one that I don't think is really great for the game because it's
not
less
Oath of Moment. It was the one where it's the one where you steal if you take. No, it's the one where you take it. No, it's the one. There's a third one when you take an objective away from your opponent, you get 3 CP. I forgot what it's called.
But wait, I thought you can't have more than one codex secondary.
No, that's not a
It's
thing.
one
you
per
can't-
codex. So if you have one
It's
from
one per
Codex
codex.
Space Marines,
Wait,
and
one.
from
It's
Codex.
one per codex.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the problem.
Oh.
No, John. We don't want our listeners to have incorrect information. This is ambiguous, and we don't know for sure yet. We do not want wrong play. Gotta
Oh.
preface that supremely.
Right, because I limited myself in my last game. It would have been advantageous for me to use both the Raven Wing and the Space Marine one simultaneously.
I would continue to
but
limit yourself.
But I figured that was not allowed. I mean, only the most try-hard players would actually go and try to take like 2 different objectives from Codex, and that's obviously not the intent.
I agree with that. I did it, and I'm a tryhard, so that's fairly appropriate representation. But this is the paragraph, and that's the problematic one, and it's in every codex, and because I own every 40k codex, and it's literally if every model in your army has and this is the Dark Angel version, Dark Angel keyword, and your Warlord has the Dark Angel Warlord keyword, Dark Angel keyword, you can, if you are playing a match play battle that instructs you to select a secondary objective, select one of them to be from the Dark Angel secondary objective below, right? So that's the parameter. So if your army has a Dark Angel keyword and the Warlord has Dark Angel keyword, you can select a secondary. Guess what the Space Marine one says?
I get it.
The same
I see it.
thing.
I see it. Yes. Wow.
See it, but you can also see how it takes one email to Games Workshop for them to be like, oh yeah, that's going on the roll.
No. I'm just going to take the Space Marine and the Dark Angel secondary from now on.
Until the Hereticus Astartes book comes out, it's only a thing for Adeptus Astartes. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's like
it's only a thing for them right now.
It's only a thing for Adeptus Astartes until the Chaos Space Marine book comes out.
I don't think that that's as intended at all. I think that there's
Probably
not.
Probably not.
They should have written it.
Said that on this game.
They should have explicitly written it as, if your Warlord has X keyword from this book, period, then you go, and all units have this keyword from this book, period, then you can do it. Because the fact that it's 2 keywords, sure, but they should say all it requires is one one little line from the regular FAQ, the rulebook FAQ, saying that if you have a keyword and your Warlord is a keyword, depending on your secondaries, you have to choose one, and it has multiple secondaries or multiple keywords that are relevant to multiple codexes. You have to choose one of those.
I actually would say I think GW should just grow a spine and not have to bow down to the rules as written people, and just say they just need to write an FAQ, not an errata that says, can I take both? And they should just say, no, I don't care that it's rules as written. We're just not allowing it. Like, they just need to start doing that shit. Like, fuck rules as written. Like, they should just tell us what the intended rules are and not have to then reword their shit to be intended. They're like, here's an FAQ that shows us what we intended. There's the rules as written now.
No. You're describing actual facts. Like, that's what an actual fact would be.
We don't care about your feelings, bro.
No. This is way outside the current business model.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts. It's like, rather than trying to create new language that would make this work, fuck the errata. Just have an FAQ and say no. Like,
well,
we know it says it this way. Yeah.
They don't get enough feedback from anything. They have no feedback.
Not enough.
Just not enough.
Certainly not enough to make a meta watch show where they track what is current in the game and what's anyways.
I just picture
not the rant session.
Every time we make that joke, I just picture like basically they have like an inbox where like feedback flows in and it just goes straight into a pepper shredder. Like it's like
like the old days of faxes. That was actually a thing, right? You slide in the tray and put the shredder there.
Yeah, basically feedback. Yeah, we never get any of those.
It's like the Eric Andre meme where one person's shooting another, and it was like, why would X do this? It would be like that, but it would just be like the person getting shot would be like loads of fan information, podcasts, articles, videos, etc. And be like, we just don't have enough information. Basically.
I just know in my hearts of hearts that even though like this is probably not intended, they're not going to do anything about it, because they're going to just be like, Well, we're gonna do campaign books with like mission secondary options as well. So every army you're gonna be like, they need to two things need to happen. A, the next GT handbook comes out has more secondaries available, more for like every other codex. That's better balance, or they just like we said, like just needs to scrap this entire like and just hammer that down. You can't have this situation of like basically multiple codex secondaries because it's gonna get to the point where like I'm worried that there's gonna be a campaign book that says like if your army is all Space Marine and you can also take these secondaries, and technically the way it's written, like if there's another book that just says that entire paragraph, and you can take all three, you can take one from Dark Angels, one from the Korra Stardust book, and then one from that campaign book, and all of a sudden like, cool, you made Games Workshop, you made your life so tragically hard to balance like these secondaries because like even says explicitly in that section this is intended for match play purposes. Like they wanted this to be for match play, which infers that like they're supposed to be balancing and taking those into concept. But right now, that like based on that, like I don't think that they actually think about that very much right now.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting point I was just thinking about. So early on, there was discussions about banning codex secondaries from various community members, and I originally was like, why would you? I mean, like it's part of the game. But then I'm sitting here and I'm like, the whole point of this book was that every year we could recycle our meta, get new secondaries, get new primary, get new missions, and that would determine the way the game is supposed to be played for the next year.
We haven't had one yet,
right? But codex secondaries aren't updated, are they?
Exactly.
Guys, they did do an update this winter, right? There's some secondaries that got changed from the GT handbook, but yes, the codex secondaries are probably not ever going to get addressed unless they do a big errata every GT handbook.
No. And I'm going to jump in here real quick because Jeremy mentioned using campaign handbooks or campaign books to update rules. And that actually triggered me. It brought up a moment of rage because, as I've mentioned before, I bought a lot of the Psychic Awakening books, some of which I never even opened or used before they were made invalid. In particular, the Dark Angels Psychic Awakening book was one of the first ones that they specifically errated. In fact, said nothing in this book is usable anymore. But every single time I get an email from GW, right at the bottom of the page, it's doing the blurry thing. Wait, we have the damn technology, unlike the rest of you. So there we go. Every time it says, we think you'd like, and it offers me Psychic Awakening Ritual of the Damned at the bottom of the email. Like for this one, this is my email for me to pre-order.
Yeah, I need to separate
the new Daughters of Cain and the new Hedonites of Slanesh. And at the bottom, they're asking me to buy a book that is actually not have any valid rules in it.
Well, it has, lore and campaign missions and narrative-driven stuff, if you're into those things. It's
one of those things, though, that's one of those minutia that will very much upset John. So
but sorry, I wanted to go back to like Garrett's point earlier that he was trying to make, which was basically like either ban or you're required to update every secondary, every GT handbook. That's
exactly.
And that needs to be the expectation on Games Workshop.
I will tell you
right now, like it's not gonna happen, but also like I only talked about the Ravenwind one, but like the Green Wing secondary also is insane to me. Like I was just like, it was just blowing my mind because like they like the Space Marines were good, but they weren't like that powerful. They were still solidly good. Those Necron ones were good as well. And then like the next few books, I'm like, Space Wolf ones are not great, but they're all killing. Like all the Space ones are about killing something.
Yes.
And then the Dark Angel ones were like the Deathwing one, not that great, but not bad, just not that great. Ravenwing one, just too fucking good.
Fucking wonderful.
and the Greenwind one is also way too fucking good in my opinion. Like it's just like it's like they're introducing like they're trying to fit like how they think the army plays from a cinematic, Hollywood studio into how the secondaries work because they're trying to shoehorn your army to fit that like narrative story they're trying to drive. And I'm like, why? This entire section is about match play. Like you're supposed to only use these for match play. Why are you designing secondaries like they're basically meant for like fucking movie marine? Like remember the old movie marine rules? Like,
Yeah.
I wish. Or I have one space marine on the table, and he takes on your whole Tyranid horde.
Yeah, exactly. It's like every marine's a Primarch, basically, is what it comes down to. Even super Primarch. But the yeah, I was just like I hope they're gonna correct ship, but honestly, because I'll give you another context. The Death Guard secondaries, all incredibly. I have the same rating for them as the Necron ones. They are clear secondaries that require you to make decisions during the game at a certain resource expense. I hope they keep doing this for all the books, and somehow like Space Marines are the one that fits outside that mold because to Games Workshop, Space Marines are just kind of like they're supposed to be easy mode. Come on, guys.
I guess
Are you good at the game? You should have moved on from Space Marine.
Yeah, exactly.
Playing some Xenos faction if you're that good.
Yeah. Yeah, take off the training wheels, asshole. Like,
I think it's still kind of discounting the point of the whole idea is that codex secondaries will never get updated. So even if right now they're good, balanced, they have trade-offs, who knows what the meta will be like in 2 years when we get 2 more GT books. And these secondaries may not fit the mold of what a current secondary is supposed to look like because they'll have 2 more years worth of data that they can pull from.
I don't agree with that just because look at some of the, okay, well, I guess it's codex specific, right? This may be because biased because of the army I play, but also there's a variety of, like the Necron codex, the first codex for 9th edition, has different objectives for different things. One of them is area denial. One of them is objective based end of turn. One of them is objective based actions. One of them is killing things from a particular keyword. Like Jeremy mentioned earlier, all the Space Wolf ones are all just killy, which okay. And then there's also the Space Marine ones and all that yada 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 yada. So like certain armies, if a codex is written that has a variety of different ways to score objectives, that's going to be the most holistic. Because what if 9th edition becomes like devolves back into 8th edition? There's just like who can kill each other, who can kill the other person in a turn and a half. Then maybe the killy ones are going to take precedent over all these other ones. But
I mean,
the objective
all we have
ones,
is terrain rules that's keeping it from devolving down into 8th edition.
Yeah, basically, because
I guess
the mission design definitely isn't doing that. So,
like, yes, Alex, the Necron ones are more holistic, so they'll be able to weather the storm of a major change.
the Space Wolf ones won't.
It's still the fact that their rules are set in stone and can't pivot with the rest of the secondaries, is my point. It's just that regardless of whether you have a good breadth, you are etched in stone. That's the reality. Yes. Until a Necron book comes out, you are etched in stone. And so the fact that they took this fundamental thing where we will have a shifting meta where our objectives change every year, like that, we had a fluid system that will allow our objectives to change in a year, similar to like video games have their seasons. Like, WoW will have its expansions, or League of Legends has its seasons. Like they make major changes every major patch or whatever. That's kind of what we are moving towards. But then they take these fundamental things that are part of that fluid system that helps us shift the meta around and shake things up. And then they etch them in stone and says, these will exist forever. Fuck you. Everything else is fluid. So either they'll all suck or they'll all become too powerful based off how the rest of the meta shifts. And they just aren't unable to be balanced with the rest of them. And that's where I find the issue of where Jeremy says is that these ones can't be etched in stone. As we get new GT books, they need to also pay attention to all of the codex secondaries. They have to. Like they can't just let them be in the codexes and forget about them. Like GW has a problem of creating, like they've recently created living rules where we have updating rules every year, but then the book rules never change. So they introduce new mechanics and things in books, and then they just let those run wild and never change while everything else is fluid.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that, we have seen through the General's Handbook that they can make major battle tome or codex changes in something like chapter approved. There's no reason that they can't have a chapter at the back of it where they basically take every single codex, every codex, maybe even ones that haven't had a new book in this release cycle, and say, disregard the secondaries that are in the book. Here are the new secondaries, right? I harken back to the Skaven half codex updates and the Hedonites half codex updates.
Yeah, like they can. I don't know. Just the last 2 years of GW has proven that they probably won't.
Mm.
That's all. Like
they have fallen a little bit off that sort of apex rules management
Apex. Okay.
that they were at.
They're pushing out.
We have not hit. So if we're gonna get off the apex, we haven't hit the nadir yet.
The peak and the valley.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like the last 2 years they've been releasing books so fast that they haven't bothered like trying to balance the books along with their meta, like the General's Handbook or the chapter approved. That like that's why it's like I agree, John, that would be, as Jeremy said, like if they are willing to put in the effort and update everything when they do the update, I'm all for this all shit. But like with these things being etched in stone forever, and then like Alex, remember your 7th edition Necron Codex? They forgot about that until or your 8th edition Necron Codex. They released it early on, and then you were fucked until 9th edition because you got etched in stone and never updated. And that's my fear, is that like they're just like, now that they've given you your, like, hey, here's your Necron Codex, you'll never get an update until 12th edition. Fuck you. Like,
well, that's part of the balance of this game, right? You get an early codex, yay, I've got new rules. Late codex, oh, I'm playing with these old rules. But when it finally comes around, you're the king of the hill for a while. Like we got the Drukhari coming out. I would be very surprised if Drukhari are not exceptionally powerful.
I guess my point is that I don't like that secondaries are a part of that mindset. That's all.
Yeah,
I understand that sentiment. I don't know if I fully agree yet. It's a little too early in the edition, just because we aren't a full year in for me to really make a proper determinant on that. But I see it. I see it for sure.
I'm going off trend analysis.
Alex is going to be the prime person who's going to have a very strong second opposing viewpoint as soon as there's a Necron like second codex that comes out, like a sub allegiance codex, like Star Trek supplement, and he's going to be like, no, these are great. I want these all the time. I should be able to take 2 secondaries.
I wish like that right
We'll never do
there
that for
would
Xenomorph.
reignite all of my faith in GW. Would be to see like a 3-month release where I get sub-faction codexes for Necrons, or even when Tau finally comes around to get a sub-Farsight supplement. Like, I want to see supplements for something besides the Space Marine.
You see, for me, it becomes an annoyingly unfair advantage explicitly and only for 2 armies. For Space Marine armies.
You're assuming they only bring that for Necrons.
Hold on.
And Space
Marine
Stop
armies.
Assuming.
Space
Stop
Marine
assuming.
armies.
Let the man speak.
And Eldar armies. Space Marine armies and Eldar armies. Because you could have Eldari keyword, right? And say the Eldar Codex when it comes out, maybe they'll say Eldari keyword allows you to use this codex. Likely they're going to say Craft World Eldar or something, Eldari or something like that, which means that that'll be fine and dandy. But if for some reason they use the word Eldari, that means that like Harlequins also have Eldari. That means that fucking Dark Eldar have the Eldari keyword. That means that fucking Yanari have the Eldari keyword. Honestly, I can only see in a very restrictive sense that a Yanari army could potentially have that. More realistically, just Yanari would have that weird situation where it says like, if you have Yanari or Eldari and or Drukhari keyword, then you can use the Warlord trait from X, which can mean potentially that you could use secondaries from the other ones. That's another one I don't agree with, but that's another potential one that I could project and see. Just Yanari, now that I think about it. However, Space Marine shouldn't have a added bonus for no fucking good reason.
Counterpoint.
What counterpoint?
What if I play my chosen my fallen supplement and I get to pick both Chaos Space Marine secondary and Dark Angel secondary? Come on.
Hey,
Come on.
Didn't you say that there was gonna be fallen rules in the?
I wish there was falling rules in the fucking supplement. Like, why is there not falling rules? I don't get it.
No, it's going to be a White Dwarf article. It's going to be a supplement of the supplement. Codex Dark Angel supplement.
I hate
Fallen.
that.
Yeah, that's,
I hate that so much. Such a bad idea.
I mean, it's what John. We're going full circle. What John said earlier, which is the balanced approach of Games Workshop is no balance at all. So if they do this entire thing like this for every faction, I don't really have a fucking problem with it because I'm just gonna have to learn to admit, accept that. Yeah, they just didn't care. They tried for the GT handbook, and then after that, they're like, whatever. Like, fuck it.
Yeah, the GT handbook was written in 2019. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I just come on, guys. Like, it'd be pretty cool though if there was like especially like Chaos especially needs like more like should have like supplements and so forth. Imagine like if you had like a demon like codex of like corn demon like supplement, and it'd be pretty cool. Like from a rules wise, it's a giant amount of rules bloat that we really don't want to.
We do not want that kind of rules bloat.
It's not like Games Workshop has been like, yeah, we're definitely gonna reduce that. Like they did nothing but the opposite.
I would be down with more supplements over more campaign books at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. As well.
Well, the good thing is,
guys, you could get the same AOS treatment as Luminef, where you get only a third of your army comes out in a year, and then the other third comes out next year, and then potentially there'll be secondaries in that release on top of the first ones you get.
No. So when an army comes out, and within 7 months they're releasing units that were not in the original battle tome, I squeak a little. In fact, you know what, Jeremy? I was this close of throwing all of my Lumineth in the box with those Terminators I shipped you.
I hope that that's not a trend from Games Workshop, because back in the day, let's say 5th, 6th, even 7th edition, there were early part of 7th edition, or maybe not at all. I could be wrong about that. But for a very long time, Games Workshop would have rules for their armies, whether it's codexes, whether it's battle tomes, whether it was army books. And some of those things with rules wouldn't yet have models, which would mean that secondary companies would have to create the models for you, or you better be real creative with conversion and hope to God that the thing is the right fucking size. I remember in 5th edition, when the new Necron Codex came out, Night Size didn't come out until like a year after, almost a year. I think it was like 10 months after the Codex was released. So there's so much to debate with going like, how big is a Night Scythe?
It's a croissant.
How big? You guys, what's the size of a Night Scythe? It was also before flyer bases existed. So people would just like have 60 mil flying stands and then like convert a slightly longer Catagon command barge and be like, this is my Night Scythe?
I forgot about that. That was that early era when we had no fly. I said I forgot about that. That was that early era when there were no real flyer categories, and so we had the Space Marine Talon, right? The Storm Talon, the Necron flyer, and was it the Orc flyer? There was only a couple. They were like flyers, but they were, because before that we had the Storm Raven. But it never had flyer rules. It was basically just a hovercraft, right? And so then they introduced these pure flyers, but didn't have flyer rules. When was that? Was that end of 6th edition?
6th, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't want that again either.
Okay. Yeah. So final thoughts though on secondaries, you guys. I think that secondaries need to be addressed a little bit more. People need to take them a little bit more seriously in order to properly play the game for success. I think that codex secondaries are going to be very specific. You I think there's about a 45% chance you should definitely be considering the secondaries from your book. It's very much army dependent. That's why I don't say 50-50 or higher. And I think that secondaries for armies like Space Marines and potentially Chaos Space Marines certainly need to be addressed so you don't see blatant abuse and completely overwhelmingly avalanche of one-sided nature towards one type of army or two types of armies. John, what about you? Final thoughts?
My final thoughts are I was hoping to come out of this episode with solid recommendations that I would use to pick my objectives as secondary objectives going forward. And though I have become enlightened into the thought process, I don't actually have a list of them. So I'm going to continue working. I'm going to use my new enlightened way of thinking about secondaries to then study them again and pick ones.
Jeremy's very upset.
I disagree. You've just learned that you can take Death on the Wind and the other Space Marine one. Like, I don't know what you're talking. That's 2 out of the 3.
Oh, you're right. You know what? I take that back. That is, as for my Dark Angels army, that is the most solid advice ever.
You know what? I think that the best way for Games Workshop to avoid that rule situation is to just simply say, like what Garrett said about, can you use ones from multiple codexes? No, don't even go that far. Ask a question, can I use more than one secondary that comes from a non-chapter approved book?
No.
Yeah. That alone stops this. That's the easiest. Like what Occam's razor, right?
Yeah. Two out of 3 of your secondaries must be from chapter approved.
Done.
Yeah.
Or that, or one or the other. One or the other. Come on, you guys. Like,
I prefer John's way.
Respect the GT packet. Respect the wood. Like, come on, man.
I prefer John. I prefer John's one more. Because it allows the person to still take the mission one if there's like a campaign mission. Anyway. Also, please, Games Workshop, stop making secondaries that require no fucking thought process. And what I mean by that is, how to explain this? When Alex shows up to a table and sees what the mission is and sees what his opposition is, and he's playing Necron, he gets to choose realistically one of the two of the 3 of them, and they kind of alternate in play style. But he gets to make a decision right there and there. And when he shows up to the table, like based on those 2 criteria, as to what am I going to play against this matchup? Stop making secondaries, which is like, I play Space Wolf, I smash thing, I pick smash tactic. I play Ravenwing, I pick smash tactic. I play Space Marine, I play smash tactic. Like, there's just no, like, what the fuck thought process is that? It doesn't even matter what your opponent is doing.
Yeah, like, don't reward what you're going to be doing anyways. That's what you're saying. Don't reward what you're going to be doing anyway.
It's fucking stupid. Like, stop designing that. Like, don't do that anymore. We're over this. Get over it.
Just to like throw another perspective out there as a final thought. Like, we're not trying to say if you're a kind of person who just wants to go to the table and smash stuff, like that's all you like. I play Space Wolves because all they want to do is go smash stuff. We're not trying to say like, well, we don't like you. We're just trying to say in a matched play tournament setting, we think that it is healthier for the game to have more decisions and less automatic win condition, non-thought process things, because we want people to win via their strategy rather than just by playing the game. That's all. We're not attacking people who just want to throw dice and blow shit up. That's fine. No. We're talking about tournament play and the ways that are healthy for how you achieve a win in a tournament setting. We're not attacking a play style. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless your play style is Space Wolf, then maybe
fuck off.
It's, you know, the worst part is like he can only make that joke because Dark Angels have 1 secondary that's literally not about smashing stuff. Like, that's it. Like, just, I got 1. Whereas it's literally I pick an objective and I sit there and I max it out. Great. Like, doesn't even matter what my opponent does. I get it.
This makes me nervous for other armies' secondaries as we move forward. Thinking about certain play mechanics, play styles, it makes me worried that certain armies are going to have
you imagine
like
Tau?
Even more, Tau, or well, no, because like Tau I can assume will have like an objective action-based one. I assume that they're going to have some sort of killy one. But if they have
a unit with the Tau keyword.
Yeah, it's like two of them are going two of them are going to be about killing things, and one of them might be like a hybrid between killing things and doing things, and then the third one will just be like, did you hit something with like 5 marker lights? Good job. Here's 3 points.
Oh no, not a marker light objective.
That could be a thing. That 100% could be a thing.
Light, the light of the universe, bringing enlightenment. Shoot 1 unit per turn with a marker light.
Yeah, Garrett.
I foresee some people from certain groups throwing some vindication memes as we eventually just ban codex secondaries.
I mean,
that's a whole
I'm not
nother discussion.
I'm not proposing banning. I just want them to make them continuously evolving with the reality that actually try to balance them.
Well, yeah,
Well, that would be the full evolution
that's-
of what we had in the
That's what I
last.
want.
Yeah, no, that's the full evolution all the way back to 7th edition. Is if now the tournament organizers are writing mission-specific secondaries and tournament-specific secondaries. Like, let's not go back to that.
right.
Yeah, I prefer not to. I mean, as it is, I looked at, say, the WTC formats, 40K rules, and I was like, wow, I don't want to do anything with this. Like, granted, they wrangled in line the Necron reanimation where you place models, but then they also made it way worse. Not only did they wrangle it in the way it should be wrangled in, like Age of Sigmar, bringing models back to a unit, so you can't daisy chain, but they also, I don't have the specific verbiage on me right now, but they basically made it very, very bad. And they didn't just change one sentence of the rules. They basically changed all of reanimation to the point where it's just not sustainable. It's just like 8th edition, basically. It's not fun for anyone, but yeah, being able to have those type of changes are just not gonna be fun.
I don't want to go back to crowdsourcing rules. I just want Games Workshop to own their failures. They can own stop owning your success, own your failures as well, evolve and move past it, but recognize they exist.
As I say, it occurs to me that one thing we have missed out on this year is 2 major GTs that are known for their own unique mission packs and being able to see whether they would use the GW book missions. Well, the 2 I'm thinking of are Nova and Adepticon, that are very famous for creating unique special missions that are, the Adepticon missions, the Nova missions, entire segments of the country play their home games with these. And so I would have been very curious to see that, this year's Nova, would it have used book missions? And this year's Adepticon, would it have used book missions? By next year, things will change. So we'll see.
Would Mike Brandt's tournament use Mike Brandt's missions? I don't know.
You see where I'm going with this? Or does he still, or do they still have to special flower?
Nova would have.
I'm pretty sure he stepped out of Nova. He can't no longer be associated with it.
Oh,
His mom is the CEO.
real quick, that reminds me. I was going to tell you.
He learned from number 45. All right, go for it.
Oh, yikes. Big yikes. I forgot to tell you guys. You know what? I'll tell you guys after recording. It's something that maybe our patrons will find out about, but that is fine. If you guys like this episode, do, of course, like, subscribe, do leave us feedback on Apple Podcasts, on Facebook, etc. We do really appreciate it. Got some really fantastic feedback from a few of our great listeners very recently, which I very much appreciate, despite me having to extract it as hard as I could. So thank you so much for that. In the meantime, if you guys do like us, do like and subscribe. We are on Podbean, but that app tends to be a little bit more difficult than we would like it to be. So do explore Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. We are going to be, of course, our episodes are video cast on YouTube, and we do have a stream game coming on later this weekend. Not quite sure which one of us are going to play. You're going to have to find out. And of course, we do have the hobby show from John, and we do have 2 tome reviews, both Daughters of Cain, and we do have, of course, Hedonites of Slanesh on Saturday. I believe Jeremy and I are going to be diving into those 2 for you guys over the weekend, but this is, of course, going to be Alex, John, Garrett, and Jeremy signing off for the evening.